Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. This episode of Sunday Vibes is brought to you by our friends at Now TV. Later in the show, we're going to tell you how you can watch some of the biggest games in Premier League football just for $5.99 on your mobile device. But we're starting with Philippe Coutinho because big questions being asked about his future at Barcelona this week, Hamill. Do you want to answer them? What's happening? Is he leaving? Is he staying? Where's he going?
Go on then. Well, basically he's found himself on the peripheries of the team since Valverde reverted back to a 4-3-3 at the start of this campaign from his favoured 4-4-1-1 of last season, because Coutinho actually took to life at Barcelona like a duck to water, mate. 13 goal contributions in his first 18 games.
He dragged them through the back end of the season.
Especially when they were resting Messi intermittently. Yeah. He looked like the go-to man for a decisive moment. However, since that switch to a 4-3-3, which has sort of facilitated Dembele's inclusion back in the side, he's found himself on the bench, limited minutes. In fact, last week only got 7 against Getafe. So things not looking great for him, especially with Dembele in fine form as well. I think he has got 5 goal contributions in his last 6 games since sorting out his, off the field activities.
I love it, Usman.
Back at training on time, back amongst the goals. But
back in form.
Coutinho, now it's not like he isn't Barcelona class. I think brilliant player. At moments has showed his genius, has showed that he's the sort of player that can fit in, with the Blaugrana. Obviously, technically very gifted, still taking around 2.1 shots per game. I think in just 9 La Liga starts, still contributed to 5 goals. So he is playing okay in patches.
And he was class at the World Cup.
When he's in the side.
Very good campaign at the World Cup.
The thing
about Best player by distance.
The thing about Coutinho, I think he's become a victim of both Valverde's conservative system and the sort of personnel that Valverde has at his disposal. So Barcelona at the start of this season went through a really rough patch after a decent start. I think they went 4 games without a victory in La Liga, and had it not been for Atletico and Real Madrid's poor form, Valverde probably would have been under a lot more pressure. And it started with a 2-1 loss against Leganés, in which Coutinho started on the left-hand side of a midfield 3, I seem to remember, and he scored. He got the nod for the next game against Bilbao. Again, played in midfield, played on that left-hand side. Things didn't fare all that well for him. In fact, not as well as in the Leganés game. Didn't get on the score sheet. Wasn't, present as much in the game. And then they also drew with Valencia after that. And I think Valverde, his thinking is that Barcelona are much more defensively vulnerable when Coutinho is in that midfield 3. If you take a look at average position maps from that time, Coutinho obviously prefers being sort of where Dembele is now, doesn't he, on that left wing position rather than the left-hand side of a 3-man midfield. Busquets was having to do an awful lot of defensive work to cover for Coutinho when he was part of a 3-man midfield. And since that poor run of results, Valverde's opted for Busquets, Arthur and Rakitic, who provide much more solidity.
With a bit of Vidal.
There's a little bit more cohesion in there. Yeah, Vidal of late as well, who's starting to contribute to goals. So Coutinho's found himself either waiting for Luis Suarez to get injured, because then Messi would go back into a number 9. Maybe Dembele goes out on the right then. Coutinho comes back in on that preferred left so he can drift in on that right foot. Or that Dembele, I'm sure part of him was hoping that Dembele would be sold. And I'm sure he loves playing with a player like Dembele, but they're effectively fighting for the same position.
In the current formation, yeah.
In the current formation. So that's where I see the problems lying. Now, I think he's definitely good enough to play for this Barcelona team. I actually think this Barcelona team is underperforming given the personnel in the squad. So he started all the Champions League games, actually, and I think he's contributed to 4 goals in 6 games in the Champions League as well, going back to what I was saying earlier. He is decisive when he's on the pitch more often than not. But Barcelona, I think, conceding around the same amount of shots as Real Madrid, taking marginally less shots than Real Madrid, and actually completing less key passes. Now, expected points still has them top, but only just to Sevilla. So Valverde at the minute, they've spent a lot of money, but getting away with it basically in La Liga because of the lack of a sort of consistency from a rival. So I think Coutinho, if Valverde stays beyond this season, which I think a lot of the fans don't really want to see, then that might convince them to stay. But if Valverde stays for another season, I can't see Coutinho wanting to be a bit part player to Ousmane Dembele or waiting for Luis Suarez to age out, because it's just not happening. Luis Suarez is back on fine form.
In such good form, though, yeah.
So subsequently, he's been linked with a £108 million move to Manchester United, which I'm not sure is that reasonable either, given that Isco is probably available for a third of the price. I mean, would you welcome him at United? Where is he going to play at United?
It'd be hard pressed to turn him down. If you're being offered Coutinho, it's a hard player to turn down. But I don't see where he fits at United. United are crying out for a right winger. I think if United are going to sign someone from Barcelona, it's probably a better option to go for a Malcolm than it is to go for Philippe Coutinho right now. Who's apparently off to China for 40, 50. Which would be a bit of a shame, I think, for a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to Coutinho, like you said, Isco is also having struggles. He's a similar player in that he wants to play in that sort of 10 slot, but can't buy a game under Solari. I don't think he started a La Liga game under Solari. I think he got just 5 league starts
I think
under
his last start was in October.
Lopetegui. I think he started maybe a Champions League tie against Moscow, and then some minnow game in the Copa del Rey, and he's being kept out of a team by Vinicius Junior, really. I mean, last weekend against Sociedad, they didn't have Gareth Bale, there was no Asensio available, and he still couldn't get a game. Then you see them bringing in Brahim Diaz, paying extra to get him over the line in this window, and if I'm Isco, I'm thinking, if I'm Isco, in a similar way to Coutinho, I'm thinking, don't fit the system, the manager doesn't fancy me, maybe it's best I do move on. And I think it's just 2 top-tier talents that are just currently rotting, really. Both, how old's Coutinho, 26?
Yeah. And
both the same age.
And you'd be hard-pressed to say it wasn't the right decision removing him from that midfield. He's just not compatible.
Just doesn't work in the system.
With the current manager and the current system.
But doesn't work with Man United either.
And
does not work with Man United either.
He's reverted to the mean. He's taking most of his shots from outside the box again. It's all become a little bit speculative, and he was kind of starting to reverse that trend, mature as a player, start to put up the figures that we thought he was capable of. Like I said, 13 goals in 18 games, 13 goal contributions in his first 18 games, and now it's sort of back to 1.8 of his or 1.1 of his 2.1 shots from outside the box. So,
but that's not to say there aren't teams that couldn't do it.
But I think this is a complete non-story. I don't think Coutinho will leave whatsoever. I think Coutinho is going to easily outlast Valverde, and we've got to remember how unfortunate he's been. He came in last January, obviously, was cup-tied for the Champions League, so could only play in La Liga. Played exceptionally well in La Liga. This season was this season where he was supposed to kick on, really nail down his place in the Barcelona team. And then Valverde in the summer goes and signs Arturo Vidal, take up one of the midfield slots. And since they've reverted back to that 4-3-3, he's seen his game time drastically limited.
Yeah, he's not scored since October when he scored in that 5-1 victory over Real Madrid.
But I still think, as you said, his performances in the Champions League games have shown that he's still got enough to be a Barcelona player. And the new manager that comes in, Valverde's not going to last at Barcelona for more than 6 to 18 months. So the new manager that comes in will want someone as tactically versatile, as offers enough creativity and goal threat. They probably shouldn't have gone for Coutinho originally, but a player in that squad, any new manager will want Coutinho in that squad. There's no chance Man United.
But we did say that. We did say when he first joined, I remember sitting in these exact 3 chairs
talking about
almost a year to the day ago, I imagine, around about that sort of time, going,
well, he's been there for a year, that's what's brought this about.
Yeah, and I remember literally us all going, where does Coutinho fit at Barcelona, and why have they paid 140 million for a player that doesn't really fit Valverde's system?
Especially when it's Valverde, I think that's the crucial point. In a different manager might want to put him in a midfield 3 and let his creativity roam, but Valverde will always favour a more conservative option.
And in that period, he's actually finding himself in the same sort of scenario he was in towards the tail end of his Liverpool career, where he's trying to join that front 3 as a 4th player, but it's to the detriment of the team. The midfield then becomes more imbalanced. It was actually the same, the Jurgen Klopp when sort of Salah, Mane and Firmino really established themselves as the front 3. He was trying to be that 4th person that maybe Shaqiri's done a little bit more successfully because he operates a little bit more centrally. And And it just means that, in this case, it's Busquets or Rakitic, and Rakitic had a great season last season covering for a lot of players on the defensive end. But it just means that someone else has to put in a monumental shift, and that's going to become less feasible as Busquets ages. So they became a little bit soft through the centre, and I think it was 1-1 against Bilbao. I think Luis Suarez had to save them in the sort of dying embers of the game. They lost 2-1 to Leganés. It was 1-1 with Valencia, and I mean they conceded. I don't think Coutinho played in the 4-3 loss to Betis at home, but it's clearly something that's made Valverde the bed. Like how many goals they're shipping at the start of the season. And if your centre backs, if Longley and Piqué aren't performing, then you go, okay, my central defensive midfielder, if he's now a little bit more vulnerable than ever, then who pays the price? It's Coutinho. Like he's worked his way up the chain of vulnerability.
And I think he's also suffered a little bit from the success of Arthur. I think Arthur has had a bigger impact than a lot of
no one expected this level.
People thought he would when he first joined the club. But if you're Coutinho, I kind of agree with Doogie. I think you look at Valverde and go, in a similar way to Pogba did with Mourinho, and go, I'm going to outlast you at this club, and the next manager might well find a use for me, because nobody right now is going to stump up 100+ million euros in January to sign Coutinho. If you could identify clubs that would potentially chase him, like immediately I look at Chelsea and think he would work quite nicely on the left-hand side of a midfield three as the attacking outlet, rather than Kovacic, who's leaving in the summer. Do they need to get him now? No, they've got Kovacic for another 6 months. I also think he would potentially work at a club like Juventus, but are they going to go and spend another 100 million when they've just spent 100 million on Ronaldo? No, it's not going to work. So where does Coutinho go? His only choice is to stay at Barcelona right now and battle for that place.
And wait it out as well, because although Suarez is in incredible form, December, November, he is, 32 now? And everyone expects Messi to drop into midfield, but he could actually play as a number 9 for a couple of years with Coutinho behind him. But I would argue from a Liverpool point of view, just what Chris was sort of mentioning earlier, this has to be viewed as one of the sales of the century from a Liverpool point of view. 142 million.
That's facilitated
Van Dijk and Alisson, and they've got better in an attacking sense as well. That is a phenomenal bit of business, and no one would have thought that when Coutinho left. Everyone was like, oh, Liverpool's season's going to fall apart.
I reckon if you stacked up on per 90 goals and assists, or expected goals and assists this season, Shaqiri pushes Coutinho's figures pretty close.
Yeah. No one
when he was at Liverpool, and they've got him in for 15 mil. So I think it's genius by Liverpool to sell him. I actually think though that there is another player, I mentioned him earlier, that Malcolm probably will leave in this window from Barcelona. I think it's a shame to see him go to China for 50 million.
That's a shame.
I think is it High Buy Fortune that have made a bid for him, or Guangzhou Juning?
I didn't actually see this.
I think it's one of the super clubs out in China have made a significant offer for him. And I think Barca are ready to sell, which is a shame because if you remember, only 6 months ago, he actually rejected Roma, didn't he, for him? And there should be a lot of European clubs sniffing around and going, 21 years old, he crushed it at Bordeaux, let's see if we give him another shot.
His treatment, I think, shows how little control Valverde has over the transfer dealings.
Yeah.
That is a clear sign that Valverde's been like, I didn't want this player, you made me get it, and now I'm not going to play him.
That's a very good point, because also, I mean, we've given Valverde a little bit of a beating, but how do you... In the space of 12 months, he's had to incorporate £100 million plus players into his side, into a winning side, especially with Messi and Suarez sort of being shoo-ins in those forward places. And I don't know, maybe I think they are one big injury, like I said, away from needing Coutinho. They're heavily reliant on Messi at the moment, who's got 11 goals. He's performing above expected goals, I think, by around 3 or 4, but that's generally what Messi does because he can, he scores free kicks from 30 yards. So yeah, I think if they want to compete on multiple fronts, it's a good problem having someone like Coutinho chomping at the bit to play. And they've shown that they are, they entrust him with starts in Europe. So it's not the worst problem to have. I mean, fiscally, if they need to get money back, January isn't a bad time to sell, is it? And we actually kind of try and decipher this January in our latest podcast, which is going to be out simultaneously with this episode. So make sure you go and download that after you've watched this. But I think, just Coutinho suffers at the moment.
Yeah. I back him to stay, though.
I think he'll stay.
How will think he'll stay?
Yeah. But I feel for
Mainly because I think Barcelona can't afford to go and find his replacement now when they've got bigger issues. I think they're Busquets, Rakitic, Vidal, all over 30. Even if they bring in Frankie de Jong in the summer, they'll need another defensive midfielder eventually.
Yeah.
So,
but what do you guys at home think? Is Coutinho going to stay at Barcelona or will he leave this January? You can vote up in the poll.
Ooh, poll.
Floating above my head right now. Our next question is brought to you by Now TV. You can stream on the go with a Now TV Sky Sports mobile month pass for just $5.99. This is a genuinely wicked product. We all use it. All you got to do is go and download the app. You can watch some of the biggest games in HD. Go and do it, basically. They have asked, should Pochettino leave Spurs for Manchester United? Obviously, it's Tottenham United, which of course you can watch on Now TV this week. What would you think?
No, in my opinion.
Oh my.
No. I think he's got better offers.
You're wrong.
I think he should go to Real Madrid. Obviously, they were linked with
How's Real Madrid a better offer right now?
Let me go. Let me explain. So last summer, he was obviously heavily linked with Real Madrid then, but that was the worst possible time to become Real Madrid manager. They didn't expect Zidane to leave. That was a shock to them. They rushed an appointment. They then got rid of their all-time top goal scorer in Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously. It was the worst possible time. Whoever took over in that hot seat was bound to fail, and fail he did spectacularly, Lopetegui. He did a lot of things wrong, good coach, nice man, but wasn't the right man for the job. Bit rushed, became the least popular man in Spain all in the space of 6 months. It was a bit of a disaster. Not the time to join Real Madrid. Whereas Real Madrid now, if you're in for them, it's a potentially really exciting opportunity. They're at pretty much their lowest ebb this century, or at least it's the early part of this century when Deportivo Alaves were pulling out shocks and Valencia are at the top of their game as well. They can't really get that much worse with the resources that they have this summer. And I think they'll throw a lot of investment in the team. You've got a real opportunity to shape a team. There's still a bedrock of really good players in there. You know, you'll still have Varane, you'll still have Kroos and Modric maybe for a couple more years. Bale will probably leave.
I actually disagree with you. I actually don't think there is a good spine there.
Do you not think?
I think Varane aside, I think Modric is highly likely to leave, 32 in the summer. Toni Kroos has got serious injury problems. You've got Gareth Bale who can't put a run together. Isco who's likely to leave. Benzema who's 32.
I think it's somewhere between the two, as in they need to add key players.
So many players.
I think 4 or 5 players, and which is a lot, but I think he'll be given time. I don't think Real Madrid would give Pochettino 6 months or a year. I think they'd give him at least 2 to 3 years. This is a man they've earmarked for quite a while now as the long-term possible Real Madrid manager. It wouldn't be a rush job. I think they'd appreciate.
When have Real Madrid ever given anyone time?
They're 2 transfer windows away from properly sorting themselves out, and that certainly doesn't start with this January.
No. And Pochettino doesn't sign players that work in the immediate either. He improves players over a progressive period.
Also, you'd expect more of their young players as well coming through. He's not really that young anymore, but Ceballos, Llorente, Asensio, you'd expect more from these players as well. Lucas Vazquez, he's now 26, but you could probably get more out of him as well. I do think they do need to spend quite big on key areas. They'll definitely need another forward, probably another central midfielder. They'll need a replacement for Ramos in the end. They'll probably need another left back, exactly, for Marcelo. But there are good players there, just not getting enough out of them. And I think if I was Pochettino, I'd look at Man United, which is a massive rebuilding job. In my opinion, more so than Real Madrid, which you might disagree with, but I think there's more to do at Man United. You need an entire new defence, effectively, except for Luke Shaw. It's going to cost hundreds of millions of pounds. There's such a swamp of failure at Man United from the top down, whereas Real Madrid only, last year just won their 3rd Champions League in a row.
Aren't you also saying that it's the perfect time to take over Real Madrid because they're their lowest ebb? It's the same with Manchester United.
No, but Real Madrid have gone down dramatically this year, but they're at a stronger base than Man United.
Man United are used to failure.
Yeah, exactly. Man United are in this absolute swamp of misery, and they have been since Ferguson left, effectively. And there's not a good enough leadership from the board. I wouldn't want to go in without it. There'll be a new director of football potentially.
Yeah, but that director of football, if it is Pochettino, will have been brought in directly to work with Pochettino. Who's the director of football at Real Madrid? Oh wait, it's Florentino Perez, isn't it? Who will just spend, it doesn't matter whether Pochettino goes, I want to identify this 18-year-old and take him out of Celta Vigo. He will go, actually no, I'm going to take Griezmann, 100 million, he's available, I fancy him. He's a big money signing. Yeah, but that's not how Pochettino works, is it?
But you say that, but that's because he's never had the alternative to work differently. Spurs have never said we're going to spend money. You have no idea how Pochettino would work if he got given Griezmann.
Well, it's become quite clear that he is desperate to spend money. He's effectively said as much.
Very keen to spend money.
He'd want it.
But
in the press of late.
But I think he prefers, judging by what he's been good at so far across his career, I can't speculate other than that, is improving middling players. And I think at Real Madrid, he is never going to get the time to do that.
I think he is good at improving young players, but you're not going to complain if you get given 2-3 Galacticos. If he gets given Hazard, Griezmann, and a really good midfielder that's not, I don't know, a Verratti or someone.
I think what he gets at Manchester United that he doesn't get at Real Madrid is probably a 2-year transition period that they effectively gave Jose Mourinho, and Pochettino needed it at Spurs. His defence weren't great in the first year. I think they were pretty calamitous, in fact. And I think in terms of a rebuild project, he'd probably be able to execute his vision more so at Manchester United. That's why I think
I completely
they're
agree.
potentially a slightly better fit, although the fact that he may not want to sully his good name and legacy and what he's built at Spurs by joining a Premier League rival, I think is also a big factor.
I think the trouble is there are like, both of the projects are pretty rotten right now. Like Real Madrid, obviously
There's a lot
failing.
more rotten Man United, but yeah.
Do you think?
I think so.
I think
I think Manchester United have a better core of young players.
Well, how were Real Madrid able to achieve what they did for 3 years if there's so much rot in that squad? I think people are overestimating how bad that squad is.
I think people are underestimating the impact that Ronaldo leaving has had. I think the only person that's come close to taking the same amount of shots per game is Vinicius Junior when he's played. So Ronaldo, I mean, effectively carried them to the Champions League in those competitions, as well as Modric, who was at the peak of his powers, 3 years ago now, aged very well during that period. But this season,
the drop-off has been phenomenal.
There's no clear system. There's a dilution of quality there.
There's no clear goal scorer.
Like that front
There's
line.
a bit to do, but
Gareth Bale cannot be called upon as a first-team player, cannot be called upon as a consistent scorer of goals. I think he left with 12 minutes to spare at the game the other day, pretty much signalling that he's sick of it in Madrid right now. And I'm not surprised given that he's missed.
Yeah, I think, don't get me wrong, I agree with you that there are certainly better quality players at Madrid. But the quality
I'm saying the quality of players better at Man United at the moment.
Do you think?
I think if you were to walk in the door right now and you could go Ramos, Varane, Modric, Kroos, Marcelo, you could say right now on paper they're a better caliber player. But if you went in and went, if I'm looking at the sort of 20 to 25-year-old in this club, which is going to be the future of the club over the next 5 to 10 years, Man United certainly have a better caliber.
Yes, so maybe not
There is a
out
bit of a
quality,
gap,
but players
Certainly.
that profile well with how Pochettino is going to work. So there is a younger,
Rashford, Pogba. Like you
Proper
go through the
players at
team,
United.
but there are decent. But then there are areas that clearly need improving.
So Man United apparently have bid 50 odd million for Skriniar. Okay, you bring in Skriniar. Okay, you need another fullback as well, don't you? And
Desperate for a right back.
potentially a right winger. But I mean, Fred, who was wanted by Pep Guardiola and cost 55 million, he's a player on the periphery.
Yeah.
There's so much more to come from
Pogba, from
players
imagine
at Manchester
Marcelo and
United.
Pochettino.
Whereas at Real
I'm
Madrid,
backing
I think they've squeezed every last drop out of Modric, out of Benzema, for example, out of Gareth Bale. There's probably more untapped potential in the United side, maybe not better out and out quality.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think United is not a particularly glamorous option because we're not doing very well right now, but there is like a hidden core of very talented players at that squad. You're going to get a massive budget, as big as Real Madrid's budget. If United really want to spend it and are going to spend it well, you're going to be able to have almost full reign of the club as Pochettino, which you're definitely not going to get at Madrid.
If Man United and Real Madrid compete for the same player, even in the summer, they go to Real Madrid.
Yeah, of course, because
So
that's Real Madrid.
Man United have lost not most of their standing in the transfer window. They never will because they've got so much money and prestige and history. But they are way down the pecking order of clubs, of players' priorities.
Definitely. But my point is that Pochettino is going to have more say over the players he signs and the way he runs the club than he is at Madrid.
I also think that if Pochettino goes to Manchester United, then all of a sudden they become much more appealing to young players that really want to develop at a top club.
Let's also not discount him staying at Tottenham.
Jose Mourinho.
There's probably Tottenham fans. The last time I said that he will join Man United, all of the Tottenham fans and football fan base was like the arrogance of Joe to say that he's just going to come to United, which he absolutely is. But equally,
I mean, he's made sounds this season,
Spurs?
which we've touched upon, haven't we? Which would suggest he's a little bit more frustrated than ever before, and I guess that's to be expected with the whole stadium rebuild. And I I do think, I mean, the conversations of him, of his legacy potentially being tainted if he doesn't win a trophy, I think is absolute bull. We touched upon this in the podcast as well, that, you know what, if he's the manager that sustains them as a Champions League club during this tumultuous period where they build a new stadium that helps them, you know, reach that next level and join the elite clubs, then, you know, history will be very kind to Pochettino. But they do need to win something as to act as a springboard for greater success. And how him looking forward, how does he achieve more than what he's doing right now with Tottenham Hotspur?
I don't think he does. I don't think you can. Yeah. I actually think he's probably taking that club as far as they're going to go.
Well, if Vertonghen gets older, if Alderweireld gets older, yes, they've got
which they are. He loses Eriksen. He's had it's like the perfect storm for Pochettino at the moment, and it's just not quite got him over the line. I think he's actually peaked with Tottenham.
Yeah. They have the record amount of points for a third place team at the moment.
And you know, that's not gospel. We said that probably last season, and they've had their best start to a Premier League season this campaign. It's just that keeping up with Liverpool and Manchester City is kind of overshadowed that somewhat.
The pace in the Premier League is record. I think they've got there's been more points than for the first place at this stage of the season, and that was City last year. But no second place team, City, have had more points than them this season, or third than Spurs. These three are setting new boundaries of what's possible in the Premier League. I'd be very surprised if he stayed.
But that's
every manager has a short period to really excel. His standing is never gonna be better. And if he stays a bit longer at Spurs and still can't get them quite over the line, this is his opportunity. Real Madrid job, Man United job, up for grabs. The same summer, whichever way he goes.
The thing is,
it's a good move for him.
Like, people act surprised about the start that Liverpool and Manchester City have made, but this has been in the pipeline for quite some time. Look at the transfer dealings that Liverpool have made. FSG actually identified Liverpool's lack of vision in the transfer market as probably their number one stumbling block. And then over the course of 4 transfer windows,
arrested it.
Imagine if they got Fekir as well, if that had been signed on the dotted line. We're talking
and imagine if Naby Keita was firing at the level he was at Leipzig, because he's not been fantastic this season.
All my Liverpool sporting friends are saying, why was there so much
more
hype?
to come from Keita too, and then Lallana, if he hadn't been injured, if Oxlade-Chamberlain hadn't been injured, like, Klopp has still had to navigate some choppy waters when it's come to injuries. And then Stan was at Manchester City making sure that Pep Guardiola had the players that he wanted 2 windows before. They were paying record transfer fees for fullbacks, for centre backs. So Pochettino, that's what it takes to achieve this degree of success now. And Pochettino doesn't have those fundamentals there, does it?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't have someone working on £50 million transfers and upwards now over the next 2-3 years. Yeah. It's more like you've got to scrimp now.
Yeah, so he's going to be in that position, maybe 6 years down the line, he's thinking that I might be able to spend that sort of money. He's not going to be able to spend it over the next 3 seasons. How do we think the game's going to go at the weekend? Spurs versus United. This is Solskjaer's first big test.
I mean, saying that, I think Spurs are favourite to win this.
Definitely. At home. Definitely at home. I mean, Man United, as we said, as we said in different shows, haven't really had a test yet. I think they played Cardiff, Huddersfield, Bournemouth, and Newcastle. And they've looked very good, looked really good. Lots of players look re-energised, refocused. Pogba's playing out of his skin. Rashford's in the best form of his Man United career. Lindelof's playing really well. Even Matic, who looked like he was a sort of, a dead horse walking in that Man United team under Mourinho. He's back. He's looking good.
Lindelof's been great. He's by far our best defender.
And I'm really enjoying it. He sort of narrows your forwards quite a bit, and then Luke Shaw and Antonio Valencia getting options to bomb forward. It's really exciting time to watch Man United, and I haven't said that for quite a while.
I think it's going to be a close game, but I think we'll get a bit of a lesson. I think as good as we've been going forward, and we definitely are one of the most dangerous teams in the league right now, I think at the back we're an absolute calamitous mess. All of the teams that we've played have had multiple chances to score big goals. Huddersfield had them, Bournemouth had them, and if it wasn't for David De Gea, as we always say, really, they would have probably scored 2 goals.
Yeah, you're still conceding,
which is not good.
More shots on your goal than Cardiff.
But I think this could be an epic game, because United are going to go out there and attack, and Spurs will score goals. So I think this could be like a 3-1 or a 3-2 to Tottenham.
Yeah, which I mean, Mourinho categorically just would never have done, trying to kill teams off with just the prowess of your attack.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Sevilla at the moment in La Liga, just using that forward talent to kind of bludgeon teams to death. But you take a look at that Spurs side, and this goes back to the job that Pochettino is doing at the moment. And against Chelsea, they lined up in a diamond, didn't they? But it was kind of more of a 4-2-3-1 with Eric Dyer and Harry Winks at the base of midfield, and then Son, Dele Alli, and who else was it?
It was Sissoko playing.
Sissoko and
Musa
Eriksen
Sissoko on the right.
yeah.
That isn't...
Winks and Sissoko as a midfield pairing is harrowing.
Well, it's Winks and Dyer, and then Sissoko in front of them. So Sissoko's predominantly there for your transition, isn't he? For your deep progressions, and Harry Winks is there for for the distribution. But it's just like Eric Dyer and Sissoko.
Pogba will look at that, lick his lips.
Yeah, if you can get in amongst that sort of that area on the pitch, which is vulnerable. I mean, they're making up for, I suppose, a lack of on the ball ability with just with doubling up on Eric Dyer playing in a 2, Sissoko playing in a 3, but it's still quite a weak midfield.
Yeah, definitely.
Without,
they definitely need to recruit there.
I mean, what's his name on the left?
Moose's gone. Oh, what with?
Who do you mean on the left?
We're linking him to Real Madrid.
Eriksen.
Oh, Eriksen, yeah.
Christian Eriksen, just name escaped me just then. But Christian Eriksen sort of on the left, Dele Alli in that attacking midfield second striker role. That's kind of where I suppose he wants to be. And Dele Alli at the moment is kind of defying all analytics. He's just becoming the most well-rounded, kind of complete midfielder in the Premier League, and has so many strings to his bows at the moment. So yeah, he's going to need big games, I think, long and short from from Dele Alli and Harry Kane, like he normally does. I think probably 3-1 Spurs.
Son in phenomenal form. Last game before he goes away for the Asian Cup. I'll go 2-1 Spurs.
I'm going to go change it a little bit. 4-2 Tottenham. I think it could be an absolute epic.
We want to be watching that game.
The weekend. Yeah, and if you want to be watching it, don't forget to check out the link in the description right now. Get your Now TV Sky Sports mobile month pass, just $5.99. Loads of big games coming up. We've got Man City, Arsenal on there, West Ham, Liverpool, all watchable for just $5.99. Moving on now to quick fire questions. The first was sent in by St Mirren Shiny, very active on Twitter. If you want to get your question answered next week, make sure you send it to the below handles and stick it in the comments below. Don't know why that took me 3 times. Yeah. He says, where would you rank Fabregas among the all-time great Premier League midfielders? Obviously, looks like he's leaving or semi-leaving because they have to get a replacement before they let him join Monaco.
This question,
Where would you put him?
This question always divides so many people.
In 502 appearances,
Yes.
he's almost contributed to a goal every 2 games. It's absolutely unbelievable from someone who's a deep line playmaker. And if you take a look at his general chance creation from his career in the Premier League, it's just gradually gone up. He has aged like a fine wine. He can't play in a system wherein he has to be mobile, I guess, or contribute physically, which is why he was great in that first season back at Chelsea when he was heavily guarded by a couple of players. In the same way that I suppose Pirlo was at Juventus by Vidal and by Pogba. So he was great in a 3, but in a midfield 3. But I saw a lot of Spain fans actually saying on Twitter that in the pantheons of greats, in terms of Spanish midfielders, they put him above David Silva. I think that's for what he contributed to Spain as well.
Bloody hell.
We know that David
Silva's
Silva's
for the World Cup winning goal, I suppose, would be.
But so like you said, it's not as clear cut as you'd first thought.
He's up there. I think he's the only player in Premier League history to get 50 plus goals and 100 plus assists.
He certainly is.
So he's right up there.
10 plus assists in 6 seasons as well.
He's probably top 5, I'm hesitant to say.
I think he is, yeah. I definitely think he's the most underrated. You never really hear him in that conversation for best ever. And, the Vieira, Keane, Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard.
And he threw pizza at Fergie.
And which always needs to be, applauded. So yeah, I'd put him comfortably in the top 5, maybe.
Not comfortably in the top 5. He's tentatively in the top 5.
Just general players. If we're talking midfielders, yeah.
I'd go. This is going to cause a lot of hate. I'd go
Keane,
Lampard.
Scholes,
Lampard. Vieira, Scholes, Fabregas, Gerrard.
This will be.
Oh my God, he's just put Fabregas above Gerrard. Liverpool fans.
This will be
Just gonna
fire.
go
This will be
madness.
tasty in the comments.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
I completely.
Come at me on Twitter. I always like a debate.
Rank
All
your
right.
top 5 in the
and
comments
then
below.
and then hashtag it top 5. Right, let's
Yeah.
do yours next, and I'll do mine last.
Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, Vieira, Keane.
No Fabregas.
No Fabregas.
Ooh, I think yours is pretty sound actually. Otherwise, although I wouldn't put Scholes.
Vieira, if
I wouldn't-
Vieira had spent longer in there, he would be way higher up the list.
Yeah.
But if the reason he's not at
I mean,
two
we can
or one
temper all
is
of them. We'll
because-
be here all day.
I wouldn't put Scholes at the top. Yeah, just mate, stick to your guns. Stop being a
See
coward.
George behind the camera going, "Oh my God, Vieira!" Well, he wasn't here for long enough to be up there.
I actually think probably Glenn Whelan. No, Keane, Vieira, Gerrard. Actually, no.
Gerrard above Lambs.
No, I actually think in terms of how they impacted their side, Gerrard, Lampard, Keane, Vieira. Oh, then I want to put Fabregas there. Fabregas above Scholes. What of it? Next quickfire question,
Are you
joking.
sickened?
The word back in his mouth.
Absolutely sickened me. You've just put Fabregas above Scholes.
It's going to be a little fight off.
In terms of the impact they made to their team, well,
Unbelievable.
on the various teams. I
Yeah.
suppose. No, I suppose Scholes.
Vile. Right.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Mr. Puljic, let's try and keep this one short, but it's a very open one. Where do you see your club in a few years' time? Doogie, you may as well kick us off.
Probably in the Championship. To be brutally honest, we've got a bit of a battle to get out of League One at the moment. We've got a big game against Luton, which actually took place yesterday, who've just lost their manager to Stoke. So we're hoping for 3 points in that one, and then we'll be in the automatic promotion places to get back into the Championship. And then the Championship's an absolute dogfight. We'll have lost our parachute payments from the Premier League. It's a really difficult league to get out of. I think it will take us a lot longer than people expect. So probably in the Championship.
Hamill.
Yeah.
12-time league winners, probably.
10 in a row, mate. Yeah.
10
Next.
in a row almost. Yeah, Man United, Pochettino with a director of football, I'd imagine, spending a lot of money. Personal questions. How many football shirts does Doogie own? This one from Ranger Rizzo.
Oh, goodness me. Right.
Come on, count them up.
Right, international. England, Brazil, Bolivia,
Should be a hot potato wrap.
Peru. Club-wise, Boca Juniors, 3 Sunderland,
Inter
Inter Milan, AC Milan, Club Bruges, Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Club Bruges.
Recently got it. Grace got it for me from, she went on holiday
Oh,
there.
fair enough.
And there's a couple of under the random ones in there. Maybe around 15. I can't get to the...
You know when you were
Oh,
packing
that's
for
funny.
Jackson Stag do and you packed 3 football tops. What were you thinking when you did that?
See, to be honest, I packed in a bit of a rush, but I also didn't really see anything, against it. We're going out in Leeds. You don't need to look smart in Leeds. You can wear a football shirt. Probably wearing a Sunderland shirt, one of their oldest rivals, historically wasn't a great idea, but it came off. And I get a lot of stick for wearing a lot of football shirts, but I'm in an industry, I'm in a job at the moment where you can wear a football shirt and you might as well get away with it while you still can, because who knows, what I'll be doing in 20 years' time. So
Wear a suit, probably.
I've got football shirts, I'm going to wear them.
The next one was sent in by QVE142. What's the 5 to 10 year vision for Football Daily?
This is
Wow.
one for you, Stuart.
Jesus Christ, that is a big question, QV.
The
I
world.
don't think we can put that out on camera, can we?
I mean, YouTube changes so quickly, doesn't it? That
5 to
it's
10
hard
year
to have
vision.
a vision beyond, 6 months a year? The platform is so fluid. So 2 or 3 years ago,
Did you ever watch the QPR documentary, the
Yeah.
5-year plan? That went well, didn't it?
2 or 3 years ago, VFM was doing 700,000 views, and all we had to do was stick Pogba on the thumbnail and put leaked in the title with a colon. So
Did
I think
do 700,000.
Yeah, I think now everyone's tastes are much more
Refined.
specific, refined. Yeah, we've got some good new products coming out, haven't we? We need to talk. Well done, doing a fantastic
Yeah,
job with
that's
that.
great.
All right, yeah. But basically,
Congrats. Is that behind the camera?
we can't say an
Contributed
exact
largely
5-year
to
plan,
that.
can we? We can't say an exact 5-year plan for the same reason QPR never should have done theirs. Because when you don't...
Stop comparing us to
When you don't
QPR.
fulfill it, you look like a idiot. So,
Yeah.
or things
Maybe we need
change,
to get a
don't they?
director of football.
Maybe, director of football. If you know one, let us know. Last one of the day was sent in by Kishav Mukherjee. He says, what is your favourite memory about the football club you support? Doogie, relegation?
Shut up. That's so unnecessary.
Cheap dig.
Just because I said Pochettino wanted to go to Real Madrid. You little dick.
By the way, this is one of the kits I
This is actually one of the shirts
least.
my favourite memories.
Reminds me of Kevin Phillips.
I'd probably say when Kevin Phillips won the European Golden Boot was a good one. That was a good memory, Joe. I also say when we beat Man United in the League Cup semi-final to reach the final against Man City, which we subsequently lost, but it was good to be there. Yeah, I'd probably say that day out in Wembley. I wasn't there. I was at school, but yeah, it was good to be in a Wembley showpiece.
Where does the David Moyes appointment rank in there?
He was fine until he said we were going to be relegated in his second press conference.
And Grayson in there as well.
He was fine until his second press conference for about a week. Then.
He was not good at press conferences, was he?
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
Hamill?
Fondest memory, is it? Yeah, Nakamura's goal against Man United at Parkhead. 1-0.
There's a theme in this.
Yeah.
Mine was Scholes's outside the boot curler top bins against Barcelona.
Oh yeah, that's a good goal.
Probably
fluke. I think he missed it. That, to be honest.
Shinned it, mate.
Over the 2008 Champions League final win.
Well, just as a moment in time, obviously that's the best trophy, but as a moment in time, that and also Michael Owen's derby winner was
that's a
that 5-4?
It was a big old head loss.
4-3 or
I
something?
think 4-3 it was,
4-3.
and in like the 96th minute.
Yeah, because Craig Bellamy scored a good goal that game, didn't he?
There was so
Yeah, he
many
did.
bangers in
Yeah,
that
there was a
game,
few good bangers in that game. You're
And
right.
did Giggs give the ball through to Owen and then?
Yeah, that was a good moment in time. But anyway, that's the end of Sunday Vibes for this week. Hit the link in the description to get your Now TV Sky Sports Mobile Month Pass, just $5.99. Thanks very much to Chris Howell, Doogie Critchley for joining me. Anything else to add, gentlemen?
Go download the podcast.
Yeah, it's good for you.
Check out Stat Wars the League, the final and the playoff relegation battle, which came out Thursday, Saturday.
Lovely.
Bye.